willing to champion the bill and put in a second bill. I liked the second bill better than the first because the second bill literally states that it is repugnant to the New Hampshire Constitution. And I think that's important. People talk about Constitution, and you'll notice sometimes when you talk to certain people, they'll give you that nod. I used to give that nod to my husband when he tried to talk to me about politics. Yes, dear. Can we move on? Or they'll go, oh, geez, Constitution again. But ask them if they enjoy being able to say what they please. Ask them if they think their children should grow up and be able to say no to the government if they think they're doing wrong, and applaud if they think they're doing right. Try and bring them back around to the idea that the Constitution isn't something that you nod your head at. Or as my opponent in the State House will tell you, old and antiquated. It is vital to preserve. And Real ID was that. It was preserving states' rights and preserving the rights of individuals to be free in their own person, to not be cataloged like cattle, to not be documented and databased and biometric markings. They wanted to put these little chips, and people will tell you, this is not science fiction, folks. Look up radio frequency identification chips, RFID. They're about the size of a grain of rice. Some of you probably are walking around with one right now because it's not uncommon to find them in ATM cards. It's not uncommon to find them in credit cards. It's definitely in your passport. I can guarantee you that. They wanted to put these in your driver's license in this new national identification card with all of your information in it that somebody who has a good scanner can read. This is the kind of work that we're doing here, and this is the kind of work that I have found myself kind of fall into. And I'm proud to say that Real ID doesn't exist in New Hampshire, and I'm proud to say that we started a national movement that was so strong the feds had to go, wait a minute, maybe we can't get away with this one. So now what they've done is they've created the PASS Act. That sounds nicer, doesn't it, than Real ID? PASS Act. Don't get kidded, folks. It's the same thing as Real ID. The only thing they did differently was say you don't have to have the database. National. You still have to have the in-state. How hard is that to connect? And again, I'll ask you, if you can catalog human beings, how far away is it to take that and take gun registration? It really isn't. So we have a bill right now that I've helped get through the House, and I'm glad that it's gotten through with full consent of the House and is now over in the hands of the Senate to forbid PASS Act preemptively. Because the feds haven't actually come up with that one yet. They're still working on it. So we decided, why don't we just tell them no now before they try and pass a law?
Well, didn't they call it the PASS Act in South Africa?
Not sure on that one.
Yeah, black people had to carry a pass because they couldn't be in certain areas.
Well, now they want you to have this new talk about having an ID in order to work. So they couldn't get our driver's licenses. Now they're going to go after creating this new national ID for you to work. It's scary, folks, and we need to make sure that we keep fighting against it. And that's what I've done, and that's why I ended up running for the New Hampshire State House, because I figured I can go up there and I will forever, whether I have a seat or not, and complain and put on protests and tell them how I feel about bills and make sure they hear my voice. But I can have a bigger voice if I'm on the inside. If I can stand up on that House floor in front of my 399 colleagues and tell them what I think about a bill. Right. And I have actually successfully overturned committee reports and defeated bad bills on the House floor. Now, I'll tell you, last summer, I'm an EMT, and last summer I got interested in getting a better tool for my equipment. I have a key about yay long that I have to carry to open up an oxygen tank. And I've lost like 3 of these things. I'm terrible. So I got this key to open up oxygen tanks. I got a knife inside the ambulance that I can use to cut somebody out of a seatbelt. I got another tool Get my point? A little too many tools. So I decided I wanted a tool that had everything in one that I wouldn't lose for a change. I actually got to the point of putting the oxygen key on my keychain, which if my husband tells me if it gets any bigger, I'm going to have problems with the ignition. So I started looking at knives. And I found this great knife that had everything. It had a little divot in the handle that I could use to open an oxygen tank. It had the hook blade to cut the seatbelt. It had a window break to break into the glass. It had this great blade on it that I could cut through something stronger. And then I found out I can't buy one. Why can't I buy one? Because though New Hampshire's got some great two-way laws, we are absolutely one of the worst states when it comes to knife rights. Absolutely one of the worst, and I'll tell you why. Because in New Hampshire, you cannot have a switch knife. They don't call them switchblades in New Hampshire. We have our own lingo. They call them switch knives. Dirks, daggers, and stilettos are all illegal to possess, to sell, to trade in the state of New Hampshire. Unless you meet an exception. Guess who's an exception? Me, because I'm an EMT. But I'm wondering, and maybe somebody in here can tell me how to work this one. The exception applies when I'm on duty. Anybody here, I know there's a lot of engineers in the Free State Project, has anybody actually perfected the transporter yet? Because that's about the only way I'm getting my tools to work, or home. Because the minute I get in my car and I'm off duty, I'm illegal. Oh, and well, there's one other little problem. Nobody can actually sell me one. So how good is that exemption? Not very. In fact, it's useless. Then that's what ended up happening, along with talking to a very dear friend, to say, we got to change this law. This is a 54-year-old archaic law that's been on the books because people got scared when they saw movies and things like West Side Story and Rebel Without a Cause. We're going to have riots in the streets. They're going to wield knives everywhere. The irony in this is that I can have a sword. But hold that thought for a minute. Let's start simple. A stiletto. A stiletto is a simple knife that has a long, slender blade. They come in various designs. They're usually very narrow, right? Stiletto is 100% illegal in the state of New Hampshire. Stiletto, anyone? This actually qualifies under the definition of a stiletto. If I'm walking around carrying this, I can actually get nailed and spend 12 months in jail and a $1,200 fine. You can go buy one at Staples. This is a letter opener. So carry around a stack of envelopes, guys. But being New Hampshire, and if you've been in New Hampshire during the wintertime, you know that we love our winter. Nobody can go without an ice pick. Also qualifies under the definition. If I'm walking around with this and I have no other obvious legal purpose for it, can I get in trouble? Hell yeah. Now, daggers are just short knives, right? Double edge, come in different designs, 100% illegal in New Hampshire, like this. This is a clamor. Can't get in there without one.